Yeah. All right. Welcome to The Curious Musician. I'm Robbie Jeanette here with Jeff Scott Soto. Thank you so much for being here with me. Jeff, I've known you a long time and I haven't seen you in a long time, but I remember meeting you in a parking lot of a hotel when I was a fresh-faced kid on tour with Saigon Kick. And I asked you to sing I Am a Viking in the parking lot. But now I look back, I'm like, how could I do that? But you're awesome, and I loved that moment. But what would you've done so much stuff. I mean, I was looking down the resume of all the different albums you've sung on, from backup vocals, lead vocals. What do people come up and kind of recognize you most for? What?
It starts with Yngwie. That's the main one. Everybody always remembers is the Yngwie thing, and that's I guess what I'm most known for. The next one, believe it or not, is Rockstar. Even though that you jump ahead quite a few years, mainly because anytime you get a movie that's got the mass appeal with the media and all that stuff, you're
Right.
naturally going to get more traction from that. So people knowing that I provided the voice in the movie for the main lead singer in the movie, it's one of the go-tos that people know me from. And then of course you trickle on down to Journey and Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Not that it's trickling,
Yeah.
it's still quite an accomplishment in terms of all the attention that I'm able to garner. But I would say it starts with Yngwie and TSO and Journey kind of a little lower than that, because obviously I'm singing somebody else's vocals compared to when I started with Yngwie. That was all original stuff for us.
Right. Well, what do you wish people knew you more for?
You know what? Between my own solo career and the band Talisman, those were the things that meant the most to me in terms of my own personal career. Of course, later like bands like Wet and Soto, they mean a lot to me as well. But at the time, especially for the longevity, as many albums that I've got with Talisman and the amount of years that I put with that band, that was one I was hoping would resonate more with people around the world more. But it was one of those day late, dollar short situations. By the time Talisman dropped, it was just before the whole grunge movement, and
Yeah.
we didn't stand a chance. We stood a chance for the purists that still love the hard rock, melodic rock kind of thing, and that's pretty much that's where our focus and our audience was.
Right on. And I want to come back later to Marcel and that
Yeah,
whole world. I want to go back. You were born and raised in Brooklyn, yes?
not raised, born in
Just born.
Brooklyn, moved to LA when I was 8,
Eight.
and so I
Okay.
was, yeah, at being 61 or almost 61, I would say I'm more a native Californian. But it's funny because even with the small amount of years that I lived in New York as a little kid, you put me in a situation with all the New Yorkers, and it naturally comes out. You start
Yeah.
talking like that, and walk the dog, and see you often. Yeah, yeah. So all that's still in me. It's something that'll never be it never go away.
Now, did you, once you were playing and in music, did you go back and play like L'Amour's or any place back there to kind of like return?
Well, I was 8 when we moved here, so I didn't know of any of the clubs or any of the names. But yeah,
Right.
the what we I played L'Amour's twice. Got to do the Beacon Theater in was it Passaic?
Nice.
I believe so, yeah. And so the only one I haven't done yet, and man, it was that close, is the Garden. That's as a New Yorker and a Californian, it's the lifelong dream to play the Forum
Yep.
or the Hollywood Bowl. I got the Hollywood Bowl
Yep.
and and the Garden in New York City, but we were this close. We did when I was on the Journey tour, the second leg of the maybe even the third leg. We're coming back around New York. I wasn't in the band when they played Jones Beach,
Ah,
and when we were coming back around New York, we were asked by management, "Hey, do you guys want to do Jones Beach again?" Obviously, that's for the money, because if we
right.
play the Garden, that's for the status. We're going to be basically playing for free.
Right.
And they sat on it, they slept on it, and like, and, oh, please Garden, and they decided to go for the money.
Damn. Well, it's business, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no, and if I'm jumping ahead, but yeah, my time with Journey is something I'll never forget. It was I'm singing these songs pretty much all of my adolescence anyway, in the
Right.
shower and in bands, rehearsals, and just because that was the soundtrack of my life, and to be able to do it with the guys that actually wrote it was an absolute dream come true.
Oh, for sure. Were there any songs from deep in the catalog that you kind of wanted to sing, but they were not including in the set?
Well, yeah, I mean, when we did the tour with Def Leppard, it's a shorter set. It was like an 80-minute set, so you kind of have to concentrate on what they call the dirty dozen,
Yeah.
the main 12 songs that people expect to hear, and then you can throw in a couple deep cuts, but nothing too deep. But when we did the headline tour, in 2007, that's where they were very receptive, actually. I
Good.
said I'd love to do Open the Door from the Infinity album, and we got to do that.
Cool.
I wanted to do Rubicon. They threw that in.
Wow.
Um, there was another one, After the Fall, another one from the Frontiers album. So we got to throw in some deep cuts for me that I was really looking forward to hopefully someday doing, and we did them.
Did it take them a while to like pull those together? Or were they like, oh, we know how to play it. Let's
Oh
go.
no, no, they sleep on it. They just kind of review it, and then next day you hear them kind of, cramming
Right.
on it, doing their own homework, and then at sound check we'd knock it out and play it that night. La
Right
New
on.
Day was another one that we weren't doing early on, and I got to do. So yeah, there was actually quite a few of them.
That's
Line of
cool.
Fire we got to throw in,
Oh,
and
awesome.
yeah, yeah. There's so many songs, and I wanted to do more of the Greg Rowley Steve Perry interchange.
Yeah.
And we didn't. I think once or twice we did Feeling That Way or in any time, but not as often as I wanted to do.
Yeah. Did you grow up listening to that captured cassette like me? I burned that thing
Not
out.
only listened attentively, I know every nuance. I know every word, spoken word, when he's talking to the audience. And even when I repeat it, I do it in Steve Perry's pitch. So it's almost like I'm trying to double track him. That's how sick I was with my obsession with Journey.
So tell me, when you were young, 8 years in New York, and then you moved to LA, at what point did you discover, hey, I can sing?
Very early on, to be honest with you, I joke about it, but it's actually true. I've been singing as long as that I can remember talking. As as long as I've been able to just utter words, I've been actually singing, and I've been emulating. And my earliest memories are listening to the Osmonds and listening to the Jackson Five and seeing Donnie and Michael, just maybe what, 8 years my senior, if even that, and me just saying they're kids and they're singers and they're famous. I want to be a kid. I'm a kid. I want to be a singer. I want to be famous, just like them as kids. So
What,
that was my first step in terms of I didn't necessarily follow the adults yet. Those were my two little teen idols that I was emulating back then.
and I think people kind of underrate the Osmonds as far as talent as
Oh
songwriters and
yeah,
performers and singers, especially. But there's
absolutely.
so much there, right? You know?
And I'm gonna say it here. I'm probably gonna get hate mail for it, but as the singers, the Osmond brothers, take away Donnie and Michael, the Osmond brothers are better singers than the Jackson brothers. I'm sorry, I said
That's,
it.
it's on record. You can go back.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever listened to The Plan, that record?
Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah. No,
know,
they very talented family, and everybody tries to harp on the rivalry of Donnie and Michael, and they were actually really good friends, and
yeah,
they were actually stepping stones for each other. It was especially the whole black and white thing back then,
right,
the whole civil uh, thing back then.
right.
The coexisting and just showing that two in that category can dominate the pop charts together, as opposed to one trying to dethrone the other.
Absolutely. I mean, once I got old enough, I looked back at the Osmonds. Like Crazy Horses sounded
Oh, dude,
like
what a song!
it sounds like rock and roll you'd make when you don't do drugs, but you're trying to emulate the feeling,
Mormon metal.
Mormon metal. I like it. That's great. So, is there a song that you remember like learning all the lyrics to when you were young that you like had down, sung like that was like the first tune that your parents were like, listen to this guy.
It would have had to be like a greatest hits of the Jackson Five at the time. I mean, not that there were many, because when I discovered them, they only had like two or three albums out.
Right.
So, but obviously the hits were the ones I focused on most. Even today, if I listen to the full album of ABC or the full album of I forgot the names of the titles, the original full versions of those albums, I don't know a lot of the songs. I only knew the ones
The
that
hits.
obviously everybody knew, because those ones you play over and over and over and over.
Were your parents musical, or did they at least put
Yeah.
on music that they exposed you to?
They were both singers, and throughout high school, they were in glee clubs, and
Oh,
there was
cool.
a vocal band that they were part of. And when my mom fell pregnant with my brother, that's when they decided, this is silly to try and pursue something. We need to pursue making money and getting ready to raise a family. So they walked away from pursuing it, but they kept singing in church, and that was always their passion, to keep singing in church in the choir. And my mother still does it to this day. My father did
Awesome.
it to to the day he passed. So they just didn't pursue it professionally, but there was always music in the house, and both my brother and I were very musical in terms of everything we did and pursued was all musical based.
What would be a song you remember your dad singing in the car?
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't raised by my father.
Ah,
My parents split when I was 2, so I don't have
oh,
any of those memories, recollections. But for my
bummer.
mom, her go-to song was always "Our Day Will Come," Ruby and the Romantics, I think.
Wow.
I actually, because I was able to record a song with my dad, a duet with my dad, many years ago, especially before it passed. I always said I want to do a song with my mom before she leaves us, and we did that song. I got a version of that song, and we got to do it together. It was awesome.
That's tremendous. Is it available everywhere? It's just your private
It's I just put it out on my socials. Every like Mother's Day or whatever, her birthday, I'll share it and put it out there.
Right on. So, you moved out to LA. Obviously, when you were in New York, you probably didn't go see live music as a kid.
Nope, not at 8 years old. No, my first concert, I think I was 12 or 13. I went to go see the Bee Gees at Dodger Stadium with Andy Gibb. It was the only show Andy played with the Bee Gees, and I
Awesome.
got to see that historical moment. If you see the documentaries, that was Dodger Stadium. So as a kid, just being in the throes of the audience and everything, my first thought was, I don't belong down here. I belong up there. And so that was always my intent. I don't want to say that I'm a snob, but in a way, I'm an audience snob. I don't want to be, crushed and watching my concert this way. I don't enjoy it that way. I want to be watching the concert where I can move my arms and enjoy it and listen and really absorb it without people putting phones or,
Yeah.
somebody standing on somebody's shoulders. That's why I knew I need to be on the stage and even watching the show from the stage. That's just my own snobbery and I guess as well the ambition to keep pursuing what I was doing.
Yeah. And the Bee Gees, I mean, people nowadays don't really realize how big the Bee Gees
Yeah.
were at that time, you know? And
Hey, if you're going to talk Crazy Horses from the Osmonds, you got to talk about Tragedy. I mean, that's a rock song.
yeah, for sure.
The
And
breeze up in my screen. I hope I'm okay still in the visual here.
oh, you're good. You look fantastic. You're looking good.
You
Uh,
look good, kid.
you look good, kid. So, yeah, with the, sometimes, you don't understand the hysteria unless you were kind of there, but the
Yeah.
Bee Gees were humongous. And a lot of people talk about that movie, Sergeant Pepper's, is ruining their career, but
Uh-uh.
Spirits Having Flown came out the next year, 79, I think.
Dude,
Tragedy, Love You Inside and Out, Too Much Heaven, you know?
first of all, first of all, I'll say the Bee Gees were my Beatles.
Yes.
For my parents or the generation before me, the Beatles were for them. That's what the Bee Gees were for me.
Yeah.
And to this day, obviously Barry being the last surviving member, the last surviving brother, sibling, whatever, I'm still working on one day thanking him in person. I've been able to get messages across to him because of my association with his son Steve.
Right.
But from that, I'm also hoping that Steve will pull it together. That I'll be able to shake the man's hand and give him a
Yeah.
hug and say thank you from my heart for
Yes.
all the inspiration and everything he's given me as an artist because it really truly helped and molded what I do and what I did. I learned how to
Yeah.
sing harmonies because of the Bee Gees.
Oh, yeah.
I broke down the notes and followed their steps and how to actually build harmonies in songs. So that was my first steps in terms of going that direction. And so now you tapped onto a very sore subject because it drives me nuts how everybody bashes that movie and soundtrack.
The worst.
Having said the Bee Gees were my Beatles, again, I'm going to be very blasphemous here. I'm going to get hate mail, but there are Bee Gees versions of some of those Beatles songs that I prefer over the Beatles versions. I said it. I'm sorry.
No,
That's
no.
just how I
Look,
feel.
first of all, I don't want you to apologize. There are no guilty pleasures. Second of all, I agree with you 100%. And third of all,
Look at you. You see, I got that poster too. I just haven't mounted it. But
it's
even the way Peter Frampton sang "Golden Slumbers," the way Barry Gibb sang "A Day in the Life,"
yeah.
there's certain projections that came out of the Bee Gees versions that I actually preferred better, and maybe it was the at that time at that point in time the updated technology behind it compared to
No.
the Beatles version.
I mean, look, they were great singers, they were great players, but the Bee Gees are brothers. So you
Yeah,
can't beat brotherly harmonies. And you have on the soundtrack to the Sergeant Pepper's movie, George Martin producing, Jeff Emmerich engineering. You have a band
Jeff
of
Porcaro on
no,
songs. You got Dave Hungate.
Bernard Purdy on
Yeah.
drums, Wilbur Bascom on bass, Max Middleton on keys. It was the Jeff Beck Blow by Blow band without Phil
I want to
Chen.
dive through my camera and give you a hug right now. The fact that you know all of this,
All of
I
it.
used to know all of it too. but you're just reminding me of everything I already knew because I was such a geek of the worthless information for Sergeant Pepper.
So here's what it was. That movie came out 7 years after the end of the Beatles. So
Right,
people who were big Beatles fans saw it as a terrible thing, whereas kids growing up on that movie, it was the greatest Beatles indoctrination
right.
tool ever. And the fact that what galls me is that Peter Frampton and Barry Gibb don't recognize how many people love what they did and idolize them, and how many of
Yeah.
us wanted to be in music because of,
Because I mean,
Billy
dude,
Shears.
look at Come Together. Look
Oh,
at what Earth, Wind, and Fire did that got to get you into my life. Yeah, there were a couple bonk ones, the Steve Martin doing a Silver Hammer,
but
and
that was Steve Martin. Again,
yeah,
huge in a way that people nowadays don't understand, but that was completely in
right.
line for him.
It's comedy,
Yeah.
but if you're not watching it, it doesn't translate. If you're just listening, you're going, "What am I listening to?" But and no, I love Alice Cooper to death,
Yep.
but because is one of my favorite Beatles songs, and to hear him just kind of grunting over, it's like, no, don't try get
But
somebody who can sing the
but when
melody.
you're a kid, he's father's son, and he played that. You might not have even known his Alice
Again,
Cooper, you know?
when you're watching it, it totally worked. I
Yeah.
mean, I love the movie to this day. I love that movie. It's my guilty pleasure. It's the one thing I will never apologize
No guilt.
for
Yeah.
liking and loving. And again, I want to be able to tell Barry, hey, maybe everybody else panned it, but I loved it.
Yeah, no, he should hear that. Peter Frampton should hear that, and they should
Yeah,
recognize they've gone through their whole life, their whole career, feeling like ashamed, like it was a bad thing, like it ruined them. And there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of people out, millions of people that are like,
yeah,
no, you are the dude. Um,
absolutely. I could talk about that movie. We could do a whole episode on that movie alone.
True. Well, what other movie soundtracks, while we're on movies for a moment, what other movie soundtracks when you were coming up really hit you beyond the movie itself, where the music
A
really hit
really
you?
big one because again, not again, but in general, I've always been an old soul. I always loved my mother's music when she was always listening to Tom Jones and Johnny Mathis and all the shit, all the soundtrack and the hit songs from the 50s,
Yeah.
the Chubby Checker, Fats Domino, that whole thing. So the soundtrack for American Graffiti was a huge one for me.
Yes.
That one really impacted my life. Again, I knew all of those songs
Right.
without even knowing who the bands were. I knew the names of the artists based on the songs, but
Yeah.
I knew nothing else of them, and I didn't follow any. I didn't go into fandom with those artists, but I love those songs. From Why Do Fools Fall in Love to The Twist,
Yeah.
even the whole Wolfman Jack contribution.
Yeah.
That's all part of my youth, my upbringing.
Yeah.
So when I listen to that stuff, I transfix myself into the 50s. I feel like I'm back in that time because I loved it. I lived and loved that music so much, like it was current.
Yeah.
And then of course the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, that was a big one for me personally because
Yeah.
and we're talking pre 80s, I listened to zero rock, 0.0 rock.
Really?
Absolutely no rock. It was Queen and Journey that finally started me in the rock thing and Styx. Those were my gateways into metal and everything. But
Wow.
I hated rock. To me, rock sounded like a bunch of noise. It just sounded like in my head.
Wow.
My friends listening to Kiss and Nugent and Cheap Trick, I thought,
Yeah.
oh, how can you listen to this? Of course,
I bet that surprises people because, you're known so much for hard rock and metal singing that, you know.
well, and I think this is why, in general, even Mike Portnoy, for instance, made a statement doing an interview once during the Sons of Apollo era, where he said, "What Jeff brings to prog music is something we've never really heard. He brings soul. He's got so much soul and so much R&B roots
Yeah.
that you hear that in his melodies in a prog band." And I never thought about it. I didn't realize I'm using those inflections
Yeah.
because it's just part of my DNA.
Right.
So I'm so happy that even somebody else on the outside hears that the influence never went away. My Motown, my the Bee Gees, the R&B, everything that I grew up with in terms of pre-rock, I I was able to nurture in because those were the singers that showed me you can inject both styles. Lou Gramm with Foreigner, Bobby Kimball with Toto.
Yeah.
Again, Steve Perry bringing that whole Sam Cooke thing into Journey. You
Yes.
can have R&B and soul with hard rock guitars, and all of a sudden, the world opened up. Iron Maiden, Van Halen,
Right.
you know, Judas Priest,
Right.
Dio. So that's when that's when you discover there's way more to what I was considering noise than it actually was. I mean, I hated
Right.
AC/DC and now I love them. It's just
Right.
one of those things.
And so when you're in LA, coming into the 1980s and before you hook up with Yngwie, obviously the Sunset Strip metal scene's coming up and whatnot. As you kind of opened yourself up to rock, were you going out to some of those clubs, Coconute's
Not so
Door?
much because I mean, I was still 18 when I joined Yngwie, so I was fresh out of high school.
Yeah.
I was out of high school not even a year when I got the Yngwie gig. So
Wow.
I was too young to be going out. High school I can't go out during the week. Weekend, I had curfews. I'd never drive. Even when I started driving at 16, I wasn't driving as far as Hollywood. So I didn't really hang out in the scene. I saw a few things here and there, but I never really enthralled myself in the scene. The furthest I would go is like the country club in Reseda. There was
Yeah.
a really cool venue back in the 80s, and that was our watering hole. That was our kind of like our domain was the
Did you
country club.
did you see anybody in their larval stage before they got big?
Absolutely.
And
Motley Crue was that was my band.
nice.
I had the original release of Too Fast for Love, and we watched the rise and the upswing of Motley Crue going from a big unsigned band to one of the biggest in the actual globe on the globe. So
And did they sound pretty put together from the first time you heard them, or were
in
they?
my ears, I mean, let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
Motley Crue is not they're not Dream Theater in terms of their musical skills, but
Yep.
in my ears for what they did and what they delivered, it was perfect. I loved it. Mick Mars all the way on down to I mean Tommy Lee was an accomplished drummer, so you at
Yeah.
least got that. And from that, we built on the fact that this badass drummer is the timekeeper for these killer songs and
Yep.
the image and everything. I loved it all.
Were there bands from that era that you thought for sure were going to make it that just disappeared?
Yeah, I thought Hurricane would have been bigger than they actually became. Um,
Shout out
Warrant,
to Robert Sarzo.
surprisingly, Warrant was bigger than I thought they would get. I thought Warrant might not have hit that stride,
Interesting.
obviously because of Cherry Pie in Heaven, but and that's those, especially Cherry Pie. That's the song that Janie Lane says he wishes he never wrote.
Yeah.
But granted, the success came from that, so more people got to hear him do the better crafted songs that he was known for, that people actually respected him for later. He
Yep.
didn't get that respect while he was still alive, but yeah, Warrant had great songs.
I mean, he got some respect. I mean, I saw Warrant in concert, and they definitely
Yeah.
had screaming fans and people who knew all the words to every song. You
Yeah.
know?
Great White was another one. They kind of got there and then they stalemate and then they just kind of fell off. I thought after the Once Bitten they could have actually gone up another curve, but yeah, and there's just so many. It was such I don't want to say cluttered scene, but there was so much fighting for the same real estate back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was there was no hope for it to survive and keep going and thriving the way it was. It had to kind of
It
implode
did.
within.
Well, Nirvana was going to quickly put an end to
Yeah.
that in 91.
Yeah, and you know what? Everybody blames Nirvana or blames grunge, but I think people were just, in general, they want to change. They were
Yeah.
kind of this. They were sick of the same look, sound, kind of blueprint bitmap,
Yeah.
and that's why Nirvana was a breath of fresh air, as was Pearl Jam and the other ones.
Yeah.
All that was stripped down and removed, and all of a sudden, hey, these are real guys again. Now
Right.
we can get behind that, even if girls follow them because they're good looking or because it
Right.
resonated with them. It wasn't only following because they were pretty boys, and now they wanted some sustenance.
Well, to go from like Cherry Pie to Smells Like Teen Spirit, it's like a shift in a lot of things. But I think the what happened, it almost got too comical. You had the kind
Right,
of
right.
the cowboy duster look, and then it just got very
Yeah,
spandexy, and it
watered
was
down, and I get it. And in general, I think instead of completely destroying and killing off the genre, I think there was a way they could have kept it alive to coexist, and it didn't have to compete. It didn't have to say, "Oh, you're into that poser metal," because they
right.
already had a lot of that. They had in the early '80s. There was when the thrash scene was starting to happen. There was always a bashing on the posers. "Oh, you fag," and all those words we can't use anymore.
Right.
And and that was already that rivalry, but
Yeah.
everybody they persisted and they coexisted and everybody thrived and moved on. I think that could have actually happened with the hair metal scene, the grunge scene, if everyone just kind of toned it down a little bit, and they did. Bands like Extreme, bands like Trickster, they stripped away all the glitz and glam
Yeah.
and they looked a little more real, but by then people already associated with the genre that was kind of fading.
And a lot of bands tried to change their sound, and that's a bit of a trap because when people get to know you for a sound and you're not evolving like David Bowie, where they just don't know what's next, that you do something that's too different and you lose people, and then you've lost what made you you, even though you had to change. It's very tough, you
And
know?
that's the thing people don't understand or they don't realize what made you you when they first discovered you was you going through all those changes and shifts anyways.
Yeah,
I listen what my backstory. If I only came from the Bee Gees and R&B and Motown sound, there's no way you would have ever heard me singing I'm a Viking or I'll see the light
right,
tonight.
right,
But because I did the moderate shift to that world, that was where my seed was planted. So clearly, when I go back and try to not force feed you, but kind of share what how I got there,
right,
people are going, I don't want to listen to that. That's not the sound that I got into you for. So
right.
of course, the same happens when you try and reinvent yourself and try to go. I want to do something a little interesting and different. Like, no, stay in the same mode, stay in the same lane. Then do an album like that. Like, oh no, it's just releasing the same recycled crap. Like, I
Right.
can't win.
Well, it's it's such a box and such a
Yeah,
prison. I've known musicians and bands where they're talking about what the record label wants, what management expects, what the fans expect, what radio expect, and it's like really narrow. I mean,
yeah,
modern genre like modern country, you have to narrow everything about you to fit in it, whereas rock and jazz have such a wide umbrella for things you
right.
can be and still be in considered that genre, you know?
And
Uh,
I have the biggest respect for Ozzy Osbourne. You think of the span, not only the longevity that he's been able, but even his sound changed, progressed, experimented. There's so many.
yep.
Listen to a song like Perry Mason or Mr. Tinker Train compared to Paranoid and Sweetleaf. There's so many vibes and styles that he was navigating,
Yeah.
and people accepted it. People said it's Ozzy, regardless of what style, whatever he's trying to do or actually doing.
Yeah.
And you got to give it up for somebody who's been able to have that level of success through all those decades.
I
It's
mean,
pretty
no,
amazing.
I was a big fan of the Randy Rhoads stuff and all
Right.
that. When No More Tears came out, that was like super cool.
Absolutely.
He transitioned 70s, 80s, 90s. Certain bands, Aerosmith, they came back after their
Yeah.
80s dip, and certain bands kind of transitioned through. I think it was those glam metal, hair metal bands.
Yeah.
And I was going to bring up a band, so we'll talk a little bit about Saigon Kick. To me, Saigon Kick was a band that was post Jane's Addiction, but they
Right.
still got sucked back in the hair metal
Right. Right.
because of the power ballad. Jane's Addiction was one of those bands that if you would have been at the Roxy in 85 or 86 and seen these weird guys, you wouldn't have tagged them as going to make it or being influential. And yet, when we look back, bands that were kind of post Jane's Addiction have something that enabled the music to me to continue.
Sure.
So, when you were in LA, were you aware of Jane's Addiction when they were like a club band?
Not really. By the time I was already pursuing my own career, I
Yeah,
got to be honest, I wasn't really listening to or discovering new music. I think the last bands that I discovered and really loved and really resonated with me were Extreme and Living Color. And we're talking maybe at best late 80s, early 90s. And I
yeah,
still listen to Extreme. I still bought their records and I still followed them. Living Color after the album Stain, I kind of lost them because I was doing my own thing.
yeah.
I also found that if I'm listening to too much new music, it's going to start influencing me and it's going
Right,
to start changing me. And
right,
I wanted my changes to be based on how I'm feeling musically and what if I hear something, wow, I like that vibe, and I
right.
take or kind of borrow a little bit of something like that. But I I just didn't find myself listening to a lot of new music, and uh, I think Chili Peppers when they were still in the rap mode, that was the last time I was listening even to their newer stuff.
Wow.
So Foo Fighters went right over my head. Even I got into Foo Fighters much later. Nirvana was something I couldn't stand with a passion, but I ended up actually really enjoying because I did the deep dive after the hatred went away. The
Right.
hatred of, hey, you ruined the metal scene, you ruined the hair metal scene, blah 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 blah. I was one of those that blamed them, and then once I stopped blaming them, just realized it was just time for a shift. Anyways,
Yeah.
I dug back in and I realized, holy, well, look what I was missing,
Right.
and now I understood why it took over, why it kind of dominated what was already happening. So yeah, Jane's just kind of went over my head, and I have to throw Saigon Kick in that equation of bands that should have been skyrocketed and been up there. But I think part of that was because the demise of the original lineup. You know,
Yeah.
to lose Matt for better or worse. people identified the band with that.
Yeah.
It's very, very fluke situations where you can have a second life as big as the first life, like Iron Maiden was able to do, AC/DC, Van Halen,
Right.
just to name a few.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to have that next life where, Genesis situation where one of the
Right.
band members becomes the lead singer and everybody
Yep.
accepts it.
Yeah. I mean,
So
we could have a whole side discussion about the greatness of Phil
absolutely.
Collins.
But I think Beeler is an absolute genius.
Yeah.
He's definitely trying to think of a better term than the idiot savant, because he's not slow in that sense, but he's not theoretically trained. He doesn't really sit there going, "Oh, if I put the A613 over the
Right.
minor Phrygian dominant," he's not one of those guys who thinks that or hears that. There's so many times I'll even say, "Man, why are you singing major over minor?" He doesn't realize it because to him it sounds good, so he does it.
That's what matters, is
From
that it
that
sounds good.
and from that, he's blown my mind, especially with the new stuff he's doing with the Von Bielski
Yeah.
Orchestra. He's blown my mind with how musical, how melodic he is, how technical he is, without even knowing what he's putting together. It's
Yeah.
mind-boggling.
And
So
I
I've always
remember
felt that about Jason.
I remember watching one day at Soundcheck early on when I was playing with them. They started playing "I'll See the Light Tonight" by Yngwie, and he was casually just shredding it. I'm going,
Yeah,
what? Like I watched him night after night on that tour, and just watching him solo on Susie and just take it and take it and take it. The
yeah,
guy is one of the most underrated guitar players to me,
absolutely.
and a casual talent about it, just like, oh,
And
sure,
it's crazy because I'll ask him, "Hey, let's do this song, so and so," and he goes, "I don't know it." I go, "Yeah, but you've heard it a million times. It should be one of those things you kind of cherry pick. Okay, if it's an A, I know that modulistically it's going to go to an E, and then it's going to probably hit a D or maybe a C sharp minor. You start thinking along the terms, but I think along the terms of that. He's like, I would literally have to sit down and listen bar by bar and learn the song that way. It's like, man, but when he plays it, it sounds like he's a graduate from Berkeley. So
yeah.
it's mind-boggling how his process.
Do you have any formal or informal musical training?
Just in middle and high school, I was in band, but I was playing trumpet. In middle school, I played trumpet. From that, I learned how to read music. I always played keyboards at home. Just I taught myself by ear, and I taught myself. I never, even to this day, use the right fingering on the keyboard, but I can play the right chords and I can play the right notes because I had the ear and I was able to associate uh, the tones with what I was hearing. And
Right.
then once I learned how to read music, it all started making sense. And then I taught myself how to play guitar. I learned how to read tabs and that kind of thing. So I'm pretty much self-taught from what I got from music school, which thank God I got it when I got it
Yep.
because there's so few music programs left in schools today.
Truly. What about vocal training? Did you do any work on that, or you're just kind of a natural flow with it kind of guy?
The radio was my vocal teacher, and unfortunately, I wish I'd taken lessons early on because I would have learned all the things from falsetto to mixed voice to head voice and all the things that would have helped me protect my voice that I pretty much thrashed it from when I joined the Boogie Nights in 1996 to 2001.
Yeah.
I basically had 2 weeks off a year. I was singing pretty much 5 years in a
Nonstop.
row straight,
Damn.
nonstop, and I developed nodules because I was singing without technique. And obviously, getting the surgery, I had to get the surgery because I couldn't take the. It was easily 6 months of complete vocal rest and
Wow.
not doing anything. I couldn't afford that, and there's no way I could leave the band hanging for 6 months.
Right.
So I got the surgery and I came back with maybe 65, 70% of my range. And I had to slowly build it back to what, especially to sing the old stuff that people were used to me singing.
Yeah.
A lot of it I couldn't do anymore. And some of it I kind of learned how to use my mixed voice and learn how to kind of assist getting there, but it's still never got there. And I got to say, that's one of the things, again, jumping ahead, but also going back because we already talked about Journey. That's one of
Yeah.
the things. Had I had that training, those songs would have come out so much easier when I got the gig in my 40s because I was a natural tenor all my life until obviously between Boogie Nights and the nodule surgery, I was already brought down to a baritone by then.
Right. So, and now you feel like you've kind of gotten your mechanics back a little bit,
I
or a lot?
still fake it till you make it kind of situation when I got to hit some of those big notes or
Yeah.
hold some of those notes out. To this day, I mean, on this current time frame in 2026, yes, I'm finally lowering keys on certain songs.
It's okay.
It's a thing. You got to do it because what's the trade-off? Oh, look, he's singing it lower and he can't do it higher anymore. Well, no shit. And I'm doing it lower and crushing it as opposed to singing it in the original key and cracking and not singing and everybody going, "Oh, poor guy, he lost it."
Right, right, right,
What? Which one are you going to take?
right. What singers out there do you feel have great mechanics and have lasted with their voice? Ronnie James Dio, up till the day he died, always sounded like perfect. Guy
Yeah,
just sounded great. What other singers do you look at that have that still, that mechanic that allows them to?
there are a few I could name, but the two that just immediate before you even finish the question, there are two that immediately come to mind, and that's Glenn Hughes and Stevie Wonder, which ironically Glenn Hughes has weaned off Stevie Wonder in that whole R&B style and soulful way of singing.
Yeah,
So whatever Stevie's doing, Glenn is doing it the same way, and that's why they both still deliver to this day.
that's awesome.
It is a freak show.
Well, it's hard when you are a young singer and you have a really high range, whether you're Axl Rose or Sebastian Bach, and you get older and you have to service those songs,
Yeah.
and it's you, you know?
I balk about it when people say, "Am I a Rolling Stones fan?" I go, "No, if I were young and in the Rolling Stones, I would sing where my voice and my register would take me." And
Right.
Mick Jagger never did that. And now
No.
I say, what a smart guy, because in his 80s, he could still sing that stuff he did in his 20s.
Yep. Jack Johnson's going to be able to sing to like 120.
Absolutely. Bob Dylan's the same.
Yep. I mean, his voice, it's interesting. There's certain people like that whose voice is characteristically not a great voice, but there's so much character
Right.
and storytelling in the lyrics that they
Absolutely.
overcome that. Neil Young, you can name some
Oh yeah.
people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
What bands do you think from the 20th century that people have in essentially kind of forgotten about that you wish could have like a comeback of the music? You know what I mean?
Well, it's sad to say, but I kind of feel the Elvis legacy is kind of finally fading and dying off.
Yeah.
I don't find too many younger generation people. Not that they have it. Just I want to see that the respect still remains from the younger generation and the influence, because the
Yeah.
influence is a huge thing. And I think Elvis will always be in the chronicles of country, and the young ones coming up will always use Elvis as a stepping stone as well.
Yeah.
But on the rock and pop side, I think that influence of what he left behind it's kind of been tarnished by the jumpsuit and the overweight and
Yeah.
what he became.
A caricature.
The comical side of what he became started kind of tarnishing the legacy side, and I think that's what kind of put a wall into people going into the 20s and the 2030s to be
Yeah.
able to carry the legacy of Elvis. The Beatles, thankfully, still have their little boost. What they found that old song from John Lennon, they completed as a Beatles track.
Yeah.
Those little things always help the Beatles stay relevant.
Right.
Somebody needs to do that a little more with Elvis, because even the Elvis movie, I don't think was enough to keep that hype and that influence. The way even the Michael Jackson movies just completely destroyed all biopics
Right.
in terms of box office.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a big boost to Michael's longevity and
Yeah.
people remembering Michael.
It's interesting because the image that people have of somebody once they're gone, Elvis, you see him, painted in Mel's Diner or something with Marilyn Monroe, and it becomes like the music is not so much of an influence in modern culture. You can look back and say, well, this person was influenced by this person who was influenced by Elvis, but
Right.
To hear Elvis's influence in any modern music, to hear the Beatles' influence in
Dude,
modern music,
I'm even still shocked that people accepted Bublé the way they did, and he was able to bring back that whole Rat Pack,
Yeah.
swinging kind of music that, it kind of died off after the movie Swingers. The
Yeah.
band, what was that? Brian Setzer's orchestra. That kind of stuff had a nice little run for swing,
Yep.
and Tony Bennett kind of was the last man standing in that genre.
Yeah.
And for Bublé to come along, and now you see even in the shows like The Voice and stuff like that, you see these kids still tapping into that whole world of the Rat Pack sound. Now it's
Yeah.
a great thing.
And then you see bands like, Foreigner out on the road or Leonard Skinner with increasingly no original members left. And
Right.
is it a tribute? Those people, some of those people have played in Foreigner for longer than the original members of Foreigner, you know?
That's where my argument wins over somebody complaining that there are no original members. Somebody like Arnel Pineda, he's been in Journey for 19 years. That's more than double the amount of years that Steve Perry, the man that brought all those hits in with that band that
Yep.
they wrote together, was in the band. Um, Jeff Pilson has been in Foreigner much longer than I forgot the
Dokken.
bass player's name. No, the
You,
original bass was it Ian McDonald or one of the Ians.
and longer than he was in Dokken.
Well, yeah, but he's been in Foreigner longer than any original member.
Amazing.
So at that point, he becomes a long-standing member who should be able to use the name Foreigner.
Yeah.
Even though there's no original members, hey, even once in a while they get Lou Gramm to come out. To me,
Yep.
that's an original member. They have
Yep.
every right to keep doing that stuff. And the bottom line is, if people want to come and see it, who's to say you don't have the right to do that or why you're doing it?
Right.
People want to see it. They want to hear the songs. Let everybody enjoy the night. Let
Yeah.
everybody work. Let the crew that work for them earn their keep. Everybody's happy.
Yep.
Why complain?
Yeah, and the the word tribute. I mean, you could say every classical performance is a tribute orchestra.
Yeah, absolutely.
A tribute band.
I've been with TSO for this will be my 18th year.
Wow.
For me, it's a tribute because we're not doing the songs that I sang on the albums that I was able to sing with them.
Yeah.
I'm doing songs that were sung by other people. So I'm doing a tribute to those songs. I'm covering those songs for TSO.
Yeah.
I can't say I'm the singer for those original songs. I'm only the one delivering it, currently.
Right on.
And that's why people get up in arms. Like you walk around saying I'm in Journey, I'm in Foreigner. No, you're a member of what used to be Journey or what used to be Foreigner. It's like, come on, man, give it a rest.
Yeah. And look, people, when you're young and you miss those bands, if like Rush this year coming around, I took my kids and like never thought I'd be able to do that. It's a wonderful thing when they're able to bring the music out, because ultimately it's those songs. You're living with those songs. You want to hear them done right,
I think Eric Singer has been in Kiss longer than Peter Criss was. So again, I don't look at Eric Singer as playing for Kiss. I look at Eric Singer as he's in Kiss.
He's a member. Yeah. Long standing.
Absolutely.
And
put in
Kiss,
the time.
Yeah. Look, Kiss survived and they did what they had to do in the 90s and, to break free from the 80s, take the makeup off and, bring it back on and reunite. That was a weird time, 80s into the 90s, everybody had to adjust.
Speaking of this and Saigon Kick and Gibb, Beeler made a funny comment when we played the Saigon Kick shows recently this year. He actually said on the mic, and ironically enough, when he's introducing the guys in the band, ironically enough, Steve Gibb is the longest standing member of Saigon Kick.
Wow.
It's crazy because he was in other configurations of the band,
right? But
without the band officially saying we're broken up,
right?
That longevity, that time span continued. So he's actually, it's kind of funny, longer than for Phil Rowan, because Phil was in and out enough times officially,
right?
That it kind of it stops your time in the band.
And Phil's drum work on Love Is on the Way, I mean, still just breaks my heart to this day.
it put tears in Neil Peart's eyes.
So I wanted to ask you about a couple of one-off things. In 2000, you sang Dragon Attack with Brian May at Reading in the UK. Tell me about that.
It's hard to tell that story because the long of the short is it's difficult to tell that story without telling the full span of it.
All right.
I'll try to give the abridged version. It was the year prior. I think it might have even been 97. I'm trying to think. That gig was in 99, if I'm not mistaken.
It said 2000 online, but
no, I think that gig was 99 because is in Reading. It was part of the Queen fan club put a Freddie Mercury birthday party for Freddie at a convention center in Reading, England. And going back, if it was 99, I think in 97, I remember reading or hearing about Brian May putting out his second solo album. On the first solo album, he actually was the singer and he toured for it. But in the interview for his second album, Another World, they asked him, "Are you planning a tour?" And he said, "No, you know what? I realized how much comes with being the singer of a show nightly, playing guitar, having so much to have to worry and deal with and sort through.
Yeah.
It was so overwhelming to me to go on tour as a singer. So I don't think I'm going to be touring for this one." I'm like, oh man, flashbulb. I should try to find a way to reach out to Brian May. Maybe I can talk him into doing a tour to promote that record,
Yeah.
but bringing a singer on the road so that they can do Queen songs. He could sing a couple of his solo things without the stress of singing everything,
Yep.
and it could be a cool little thing. So I went online trying to find information, can't find anything on where to send anything to Brian May.
Right.
No address to management, nothing. The only thing I came and as I was looking, I opened up a link said BBC announcing that year announced it was a recent interview or article stating that Queen were discussing the possibilities of finding a singer and continuing. I'm like, oh my God, forget about the Brian May solo tour. I'm going for that. So I
Yeah.
was on a mission. And I finally scoured enough until I found the email address of the woman who runs their fan club since Freddie was alive, since they were relative, they were relevant and active, and her name was Jackie. So I found her email. I sent an email introducing myself, explaining what I want to get something to her to play to give to the guys in the band if she would do me the honors.
Yeah.
Ignored. Wrote to her again. Ignored. Emailed her last time. Listen, I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep bothering you, but
Right.
I'm really persistent here. As you can tell, I'm not just a blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Finally, she wrote back, said, listen, nothing's happening. That was a false rumor. Maybe they took from something one of the guys said and they turned it into clickbait. Nothing's happening. But sure, if you want to send me something, I'll have a listen.
Right. Well,
What
what did
could
you
what
send?
could possibly go wrong?
Right.
I sent Talisman did a cover of "Let Me Entertain You" on
Nice.
our Truth album. I did a cover of we did Darling, no, not Darling Nikki. What's the Dragon Attack that you were talking about? I took that excerpt and put it on burnt it on a CD,
Yep.
and there was something else I can't remember. There was something else that I had sung Queen oriented that I put on there.
Okay.
And then I also put in an original song that Talisman had done that was very Queen laced and oriented with big backings and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a 4-song thing. I sent it by CD, by regular mails, Royal Mail to the UK. And it was a couple weeks later, I got this overwhelming email. Oh my God, I got your CD. Oh my God, I can't stop listening to it. Oh my God, I'm bringing this to Brian's house. I'm going to hand deliver it to him. This is amazing. Can you do me a huge favor? I have no way of getting the songs off this. Can you send me another copy? She just wanted to continue listening to because she was
Nice.
about to lose hers to Brian.
Yeah.
I'm like, of course, you're going to hand deliver it to Brian, bring it to his house. Of course, I'll do that.
Right.
So again, fast forward, maybe a month later, I received a handwritten letter in the mail from Brian May.
Wow.
And of course, trembling, shaking, oh my
Yeah.
God, I can't believe he replied. And he pretty much said what Jackie said, nothing's really happening. We're not doing anything. I'm going back into my bachelor's and then kind of I want to get my degree in astronomy and just wasn't doing anything. And I'm like, oh man, well, at least I got a letter from Brian. I wrote back to him by letter, and he wrote back a second letter. Awesome. So now I'm friends with Brian. So now we fast forward to 1990. See, I wanted it has to be 99 because 98 is that was 99. Hang on, how did this all come to pass? Because that's right, because it was definitely 90. I want to say it's even 98, but for some reason, because I met Brian in 2001. This is the first time we met, and I'd already known Brian. I met Roger in 2001. So maybe that show was in 2000.
So
Because
it
I'm
was,
trying
and
to,
it was a fan club set up Freddie
yeah,
Mercury birthday
it's Freddie
party
Mercury birthday
that
party.
Brian May was invited to and
He
said,
was invited
"I'll
because
go."
Spike Edney's band, The Cross, well, it's Roger Taylor's band, The Cross, were playing, but I don't think Roger was playing. But they didn't bill it as the SAS band. It was all the members that were in the band The Cross, which included Spike Edney, the keyboard player for Queen,
All
and
right.
Spike's All Stars, etc. And Spike did all the MDing for Brian May solo things, all the Roger solo things. So Spike is extremely important in the Queen world.
Yes.
So from that, basically, I was invited to sit in with the Queen tribute band in at the Queen fan club in England. There's
Yes.
a Queen tribute there. So that would have been in, oh man, I wish I had my dates in front of me.
It's all right.
So I sat in with that band at the Queen convention. From that, it was overwhelming. We won a full headline set from this guy.
Yeah.
So I did the full Queen convention set with my band. That was in 2003. I had my band learning 44 Queen songs, most of
Wow.
which they never learned because I went deep. I
Yeah.
went deep cuts with a lot of that stuff
Damn.
because I knew that the Queen fans would love that. They're every tribute band they're just there to do the Dirty Dozen
Right.
with the yellow jacket, and it's basically Wembley Live. I
Right.
wanted a spectacular of all those songs and a medley of ballads that they even Queen never did live.
Right.
I went for it.
Good. That's cool.
So before that, I sung with Queen with Brian and Roger when they got the Star Hollywood Walk of Fame. That was in 2001. I sang at the Queen event in 2003, and I made a DVD out of that. And it was from that DVD that led me to have a much larger role in the Queen circle and family. That's how I got to sing in the Queen Extravaganza,
Yeah.
and I did a lot of stuff with Brian and Roger on the side. We did a lot of corporate stuff together. So it was just one of those open doors. My persistence in pushing and wanting to meet Brian and possibly singing for him
Yeah.
turned into so many other avenues and doors. And now, I mean, we were just emailing last night. I consider him a friend as well as a peer, and it's just an amazing feeling to have somebody that means so much to you as part of your life's blood, as part of your
Yeah.
DNA, as part of your my Rolodex, part of my phone contacts, part of everything.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. And yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a validation in a way, you know?
It's a huge validation. And and on top of that, there's no other way I can thank him or them or anybody in in my genre, in my world, in my music world. There's no better way to thank them than to show them how that influence paid off into me.
Absolutely. 100%. I want to turn to Talisman for a moment and Marcel. Now, Marcel Jacob, you played with him in Yngwie's band, right?
Yeah.
So how did you and he actually meet? Because whatever your meeting was, it started a great partnership that lasted through all these different years and projects.
Well, ironically, it wasn't until Talisman that our true relationship started because we didn't really have much of one during both our tenure with Yngwie. He was if of all the guys, clearly I'm American and I came from the hair metal scene, the LA scene. I was very removed from the even the way the other guys dressed to the way they carry themselves. I had more of the LA hair metal vibe and feel and personality and characteristic to me that really it kind of rubbed the wrong way. I kind of had to adapt and dummy down and adapt to their world for me to fit in a little more.
Yeah.
So Marcel, what I would say was the most removed in terms of having anything in common or really sitting down and having heart to hearts and that kind of thing. He was
Interesting.
he was more of the kind of personality that would not look down at you, but he'd be kind of judging you. And it's not that he wouldn't get close to you. It's I guess that was kind of a wall that would prevent you getting close to each other. So we met during the Yngwie thing. Obviously, Yngwie brought him in from Sweden
Yeah.
right after I was inducted as the actual singer. He brought him in for the rehearsals for the Marching Out album and for the tour that was about to start in '85. So I knew him during that time. I left first in '85. Then Marcel left in '86. I came back in '86 and left in '87. During the time Marcel was back in Sweden, he linked up with John Norum, who recently
Yep.
left Europe,
From Europe,
and
right?
he co-wrote pretty much every song on that first John Norum album. And
Wow.
so
Okay.
the Talisman sound was that album, the Total Control album from John Norum. You listen to a lot of those songs, they could have and would have been Talisman songs had they not
Yeah.
been on that record. It was from that influence and style and writing and John having a hit record with it, getting ready to do a second record. There was talk that Marcel would not be invited to do it. They were going to be working with Glenn Hughes as the singer, but Glenn wanted to play bass on it. And Marcel was ousted, but Marcel was already writing new music for the second album.
Right.
And those songs would be what turned into the first Talisman album.
So once you got to know Marcel and bonded with him in Talisman, when you look back on those early years with him where he was standoffish or judgmental, do you understand his personality better to
Absolutely.
explain that more?
Part
Was
of
it a
it,
Swedish thing?
yeah, part of the rub or the disconnect would have been he probably didn't at that time or maybe didn't pay attention, didn't respect me as a musician. He didn't know that I was so deep rooted as a
Right.
singer. When he saw me dressing with the frayed t-shirt pieces and
Yeah.
all the colorful clothing and everything, he just saw me as wanting to be in Poison or Motley Crue.
Right.
So somebody like Marcel, or even somebody as an accomplished musician from Europe, they frowned on that. They looked down on that. So in some ways, he looked down on me. It wasn't until he saw that I was influenced, and not only influenced, but I actually had theory, that I knew what I was talking about. I knew what I was doing when we were doing what we talked about. And from that, he was now in the Talisman, especially after the first album, he was now listening to what I was listening to, and he got influenced by what I was listening to, and the Talisman sound shifted because of that
Yep.
change in influence. And just from that alone is why and how he became not only my brother and one of my best friends in the universe, but that's what finally broke that wall, that connection. I finally saw what musically what he was into, what made him tick. He finally saw what made me tick. We joined forces, and that became the new Talisman sound.
Man. And so Talisman put out what's like 6 or 7 albums?
7 albums, yeah.
Seven
The last
albums.
album was called Seven. 7 studio albums, yeah. There's
Yeah.
a few best of, great hits kind of thing, and quite a few live albums, but it's 7 studio records.
And when he died, were you active as Talisman at the time?
We were a week away from starting the next album.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Um, it was kind of chaotic because none of our former guitar players were coming back. We had discussed bringing my guitar player at the time, who's still in my band, Soto, Jorge Salon. He was going to actually play the next album, and then we would from there going to consider touring, and how we wanted to see the reception first. We didn't want to force a tour just because we're releasing an album.
Yep.
And I'll be frank with you. I don't think I've ever told this story to anyone, and if I have, I apologize for repeating it. But the story goes, one of the reasons why Marcel took his life is because he was severely in debt. He owed the government so much money. He owed people money. He was having a lot of health issues, a lot of pains and things that were preventing him even from playing the bass the way people know of his bass playing, or writing the kind of riffs and things that he was known for doing. So from that, it got to his head, and a deep depression set in. And that's what led to him finally taking his own life. He just
Mm.
realized, I'm never going to be what I was once. I'm going to be expected to be that, and I'm going to be frowned at and looked at as I'm done and toast. And I want to go away in life known for my endeavors and what I was known for.
Oh, it's
So,
heartbreaking.
so before that, the day before he took his life, and it takes me a minute to talk about it, because he called me and said, "Listen, I know we're starting next week, and to receive the advance from the label to get the money, start
Yeah.
paying the studio and going through the studio, I'm in debt with the government. If any money comes into my account, it's immediately seized, and we have no album budget. We basically, all that money is going to go into what I owe the government, and
Wow.
we don't have, and then we have no way to make the record. The last tour, or the last something that we did together, I took the big hit. I collected the advance. I collected all the monies, but I wasn't incorporated yet, and I got audited, and I paid out the butt
Oh, man.
for taxes
I
because
imagine.
of the last Talisman outing. So I told him, hey, well, if I get it, I'm gonna have to pay the taxes on it, or I'm gonna have to sift money, which I don't know what it's gonna be. It's complicated. I don't know what to do. And he goes, well, we have to choose one, the lesser of the two evils. We
Right.
lose all the money, and I said, well, I'll just call my accountant, and I'll just ask, what's the way to do this where I'm not going to get hit for this and have to pay the
Yeah.
taxes on it. So I said, and I was living in London at the time. So it's, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning, LA time. I said, when they wake up, I'll call and I'll get some information, and let's talk tomorrow, and let's figure out how I'm going to receive the money, and we can start the pre-production. Another thing I want to stress before I finish, I asked him, normally every single time he would send me songs, he would send me demos, he would send me even something just to with a
Right.
riff, so I can kind of get a feel for where he's going musically,
Yeah.
tempos, and I can kind of get a jump start of what I'm going to be singing on it. He sent me nothing this time.
Mm.
And the last time he sent me nothing, he'd already been working with the band in Sweden. This time, he said, everything's in my head. I want to record the album all together, write it all together based on everything that's in my head. I went away thinking when he passed, because They scoured his laptop. I thought
Right.
maybe he demoed some stuff. Maybe we could even find some raw bass tracks that we could lift and finish at least a song with him.
Yeah.
Didn't demo anything. There was
Nothing.
nothing new on there. I think he didn't have anything. I don't think mentally he was there. He
Yeah.
was hoping, and I think he was not only hoping, but he felt he was promised in his head that if we got together, we'd write that album.
Yeah.
But I don't think he had anything yet.
Damn.
So it was the next morning. I went to the gym as I normally do, and I was waiting for my accountant to call me back or wait. I was reading the email that she sent me, and
Right.
I got a call from his sister that he was found in his apartment, took his life.
Man. And that leaves so many unanswered questions, as it
Yeah.
always does. It's not much that you can do.
Thankfully, thankfully, he was of sound mind to leave a note to his best friend, the guy that still runs the Talisman Empire. I'll call it Empire for lieu of better word. It's
Sure.
basically our discography. It's any business and videos, anything, trademarks, copyrights, publishing.
All that.
Krister's running the show there. Anytime we do reunion shows, he's the one involved booking it, basically overseeing everything because Marcel knew he could leave Krister entrusted with making sure we're taken care of and on our dealings and everything that Marcel did for Talisman.
Absolutely. Oh, man, it's like it's sad, but the music still has an audience out there,
Mm.
and the fact that it's still being worked as a catalog is good for his memory and for all the work that you guys did
And
together.
thankfully, it's out of everything in my life musically. I'm not just saying it because he's gone, because we don't have him and we don't have that level of Talisman anymore. Thankfully, that music was the soundtrack of my career in terms of what I'm concerned. Of course, everybody loves and likes the bits and pieces that they think and feel makes me the artist that they see me as. But
Yeah.
for me, the artist I see me as all comes from Talisman because that was the one band I could put everything in. We
Yeah.
on the Humanimal album, I said, let's do like an old 50s doo-wop song. And Marcel said, why not?
Sure.
There was never any, hmm. But Talisman was my queen for me in terms of course, we didn't go as crazy as Queen did,
Right.
but Marcel allowed me to try everything with Talisman. There was nothing we didn't try that I wanted to try. We didn't leave any stone unturned. And again, I didn't go too crazy, but I got crazy enough to let all my yayas out, and
Do
that
you
was the
have
band.
do you have to fight for that kind of freedom in Sons of Apollo or in Soto? I mean, Soto's your band, so you could technically make it
Yeah,
whatever you want.
I'm not fighting because everything has its place. Everything has
Yeah.
its reasons. I'm not gonna say, hey, we're Sons of Apollo is a super group. Why are we only doing Dream Theater songs? And why aren't we doing something from one of my albums or from Rockstar or
Right.
from Talisman or Yngwie? Because Sons of Apollo wanted to stand on its own
Yep.
legs, and it made sense having two members of Dream Theater when we hit the gate running
Yep.
with only one album. Of course, we're going to throw in a couple of covers. We're doing Van Halen because that's the one band that we all agreed on that we could pull off a song that had keyboards. And
Yep.
the Great Old Rock. There are other great Van Halen songs we could have done, but that's the one that had keyboards throughout, and we turned it into our little encore moment.
I mean, you got to give Derek Sherinian something to do.
Exactly. You can't have him playing doubling the guitar sound with his
No.
dirty organ sound,
His
even though he
dirt
does that great too.
He does. I mean, of all the people that like can get out and shred on like a B3 distorted, like
Yeah.
he's got that rock crown there. I give him full
Look at
props.
Derek's social medias on Eddie Van Halen's and Randy Rhoads' birthdays, and you'll hear him emulating one of their famous solos on a
Yep.
keyboard, and it sounds like the guitar. It's
Yeah.
it's uncanny.
Well, there's no doubt why he's in your super group because you all are super.
Well, let's say I'm in his.
Okay.
It's Derek's and Mike's band, so
Right on.
we were in their band.
I like that. So I want to wrap up with you. What is next for you coming up? And of all the things that are next, what do you like? What's a hope or a dream or a wish of something that you'd like to be singing on that you have no plans for now, but that one day you'd love to go out and do?
Of course, I have my bucket lists. I've been able to complete most of them. I still have, and he knows. I'm sure by now he's heard it. And God damn it, Nuno, wake up, man! It's time. No,
Time
Nuno
to,
Betancourt is one of my favorite. He's been one of my favorite guitar players for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't just say that now because he's kind of been passed the baton. He's kind of the new goat in town, the go-to guy that everybody's going to say he's the best out there at the moment. I've always felt that about him since Porno
Yeah.
Graffiti. So
Yep.
I would love to do a song, a project, even just a show. I mean, we got to sing "Stone in Love" together at the
Oh,
Ultimate Jam this year and at the Nam thing, and that was so much fun to be up there with him and Billy,
for sure.
and it was such a thrill to be able to sing something with Nuno because I respect the guy as an artist, as a
Yeah.
musician, and as a writer and as a producer. So I'd
Yes.
love to do something with him one day. So Nuno, wake the fuck up! It's
Come
time.
on, Nuno. It's
Uh,
time.
but yeah, I've my bucket list doing stuff with Brian May. I've been able to do that. Brian and Roger and Sons of Apollo was a bit of a bucket list band for me because I've always wanted to do something with Billy and Mike, and I finally
Yep.
got to do that. And
Is
I
that
really
done or
hope
just on hiatus?
that's kind of that's kind of my wish list. I hope someday we're able to pull that back together. We
Yeah.
do that again because we finally we're hitting our stride.
Yeah.
The pandemic pulled it from us. The pandemic was influential in things turning course. And if Mike was he was already going back to Dream Theater, even if Sons of Apollo blew up and was
Right.
successful, so be it. But at least from that, there might have been a course of just hold on, guys. We'll revisit that along the way somewhere in the future.
Right.
But honestly, I don't think there could be a world where both of those bands coexist because musically they're too similar. Sons of Apollo, I think Dream Theater is even more progressive and more keyboard progressive oriented. Sons of Apollo is more prog power metal kind of thing, power
Yeah.
rock.
I would agree.
So they're different in that respect, but just the complicated beats and time signatures and stuff like that that Mike is already doing Dream Theater.
Right.
I don't think it's something that they want to compete with, and I don't blame them, and I
Yeah.
don't want to compete with it either.
No.
I, I I always felt that the healthy competition in Dream Theater and Sons of Apollo should have been exactly that. You guys are fucking amazing what you do, and we are what we do.
Yeah.
But we're not trying to be you, you're not trying to be us, and that's where it should be left at.
Right on. Well, I think that it's, the more music, the better for the world, in some ways.
Exactly.
Well, I hope that all of your bucket list dreams come true. And I
Yeah,
love spending time with you and seeing you. I hope we can hang in person someday.
absolutely. Next year looks to be quite a busy year. It's things I can't quite. There's some things that are booked. I just can't announce them yet. Once they're announced, I can talk about them. But
Yep.
it's some pretty interesting things that are happening next year that I can't wait to finally announce. I'm
Awesome.
going to be doing some more stuff with Beeler. We'll probably do some more Saigon Kick stuff here and there. Hopefully,
I hope you come
uh,
to LA. I want to see an LA show with
I
you
know.
guys.
Working on slowly working on new Soto material. We're not doing how we normally do, where we just cram as many songs we can get together and get it out there and then watch it flop. We're doing it really meticulously and slowly, and probably going to go the newfangled. I'm going to follow the way everybody's doing it now, one song at a time. If
Right.
traction builds, then you get a full album. If
Right.
traction builds, then you get a tour. But no more of this. Record an entire album takes you put all your love and your blood and your energy and sweat and tears, and then 3 weeks later nobody cares. I'm done with that.
That's tricky. I was going to ask you, there's one thing I meant. I saw you once at the Roxy in a project. Was it called Romeo Blue? No, that was there was a project I saw you singing at the Roxy. It was very funky, almost kind of Princey.
Oh,
Uh,
I think that was the band that played with us, Slam.
no, it was you singing, and I remember seeing you there, and it was kind of out of the metal character
The
uh,
band, but wasn't my
musically.
band Slam?
It might have
Because
been
Slam was it was around the time that I when did you come to California?
2001, so it would have been soon after that.
Yeah, Slam I think just ended by then.
Or maybe
But
I saw you because I was out on tour with different bands in the late 90s, Seven Mary Three and stuff. We played the
right,
Troubadour or
right.
whatever.
But
Um,
it was a live show.
it was a live show, and I remember I kept thinking it was more like a Prince oriented thing than a metal or rock
Wow,
oriented thing. And you were singing.
interesting.
Yeah, maybe it was a dream. Maybe I'm in my own dream theater in my
Because
mind.
I definitely had that kind of stuff in my head that I wanted to do, but I don't remember doing it. My band Slam was the closest to that because I was so into Living Color and Extreme and King of the
Yeah,
Hill at the time that I wanted a metal band with horns, and we were doing that kind of stuff. But that would have been 80, blah, 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 blah. It would have been maybe 91 to 95, 4. So you might have actually seen Slam. We had a rapper and everything.
Maybe. I mean, it could have been when I was out with
We
Saigon
played at
Kid.
FM station.
Well, the Roxy was the first place I played with Saigon.
Right, right, right.
But I don't know.
Wow.
It might just be a mystery. Maybe it's a dream in my head. But I wish I. And you talking about all that '50s stuff? Like, I would love to see
Right.
you do a set of that stuff. Like your
Dude,
child.
I mean, you're such an accomplished pianist and you tap into so many different genres. We need to do something together.
I'm here for it anytime.
I,
Anytime.
you know what? Send me some songs. Let me listen. Let me pick one and go, let's do this one together.
All right, you got it.
And
Da-
let's go deep. Let's go outside either of our genres. It can either be Elton John meets
Spike.
barbershop or something way out there. Because you're everywhere. You're all over the map.
I do. Well, I feel like if you keep evolving and changing your style, then AI can't rip off your style.
Exactly.
You'll,
And maybe
you'll
we
be
should
just
do a
one
swing
thing.
song.
Hey,
Add to the Michael Bublé things. Hey, Jeff Scott Soto's chasing that real estate now.
I mean, everything that you do that's different, it makes you as a vocalist not just one thing, not just the
Yeah.
singer of Yngwie, but all these different things. And
That's the most important thing to me because I need something that keeps challenging me because at some point it can get stalemate. You
yeah,
can kind of stop creating and you just kind of just digging from your own archives and repeating yourself.
yeah,
It's important to keep growing and keep utilizing influences that you haven't let people hear yet.
agreed 100%. Well,
Right
here's
on.
to some beautiful, bright things in the future. And man, I love hanging and talking with you. Let's do
Right
it
on,
again
Robbie.
sometime. All
Thanks.
right.
Thanks for this.
Thank you.
All right, brother.